Hello, everyone. My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today, we are celebrating 200,000 subscribers, and I thought, what would be a better way to celebrate a milestone like that than reacting to one of my older videos? So I had you all vote in a poll over on my Twitter account, which is just at Evie Lupine, for which one of my older videos you wanted me to react to. And the winner by at least 10 percentage points was BDSM 101 What is Pet Play? And I think this was the 10th video I ever made. It actually wasn't the first 101 video I ever did. It was how to make an aftercare kit, which I already reacted to. And if you want to see that reaction, it'll be down below. And I also did service submission as well before that. So I am really curious to see what it is that I said and how the whole thing went, because I don't really remember. So it's gonna be an adventure, I think. And FYI, I have been really sick for almost a week now. You can probably hear it in my voice. I can hear it as I'm speaking right now. I am in the stage of like my nose is like congested, it's runny, it's everything all at once. So if I sound weird or if I'm at all sounding mumbly or slurring my words, I'm really sorry. It's just my whole body is like not cooperating right now, but I hope that you all enjoy this maybe more relaxed and lighthearted video. So let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, I want to comment on the thumbnail because I have actually tried to recreate the makeup I did in that video. I don't own that collar anymore. I do own that harness though, and I didn't put it on, but I do still own it. And the memories 5 years ago. Wow. I can't believe it's really been that long, but let's go ahead and get into it.
YouTube, this is Evie, and today I'm going to be doing a video on what is pet play. This is
Oh, I forgot about this. So, background trivia knowledge for all of you Evie Lupine heads out there. I used to film with a webcam that was on top of a laptop. And then I rested the laptop on my bed, I think on a pillow or like books or something. So this whole video is gonna be shaky cam. FYI. Oh, the memories. Okay, listen, I know 80% of you don't care about makeup, but I have to mention this. So I'm wearing green eyeshadow in this, and I remember that because I think it was a Revlon little 3-pan or 4-pan palette I got from uh, Rite Aid, Walgreens, somewhere like that, and I used it all the time. And I don't own it anymore, so I recreated it as best I could with the current eyeshadow I have, but I wore that so much. I think this may have been my first time wearing black lipstick as well, so this whole look is such an adventure. I had that hair as well for like the whole time I was in university. I had that hairstyle for at least 4 years, and I really like that hair as well, but I'm kind of attached to having it grown out and seeing how long it'll grow at this point. But I'm sure I will go back to the bob look at some point in time. But anyways, little details for again, the Evie Lupine heads out there. Let's go.
something that I wanted to make for a really long time. I did a lot of research. I wrote a script.
Well,
And
I
I'm going to
wrote a
try and talk about as many
script.
different.
What? What did I? That must have been the first. I was not expecting to hear that. I guess I must have taken notes somewhere. Unfortunately, the laptop actually I filmed all these videos on got stolen. So, I don't have access to any of those old notes or anything, but that is fascinating. I totally do not remember having written notes for this whatsoever.
Different kinds of pet play and aspects of pet play as I can in one video. But I don't want to overwhelm you guys and make this video too long, so let's just go ahead and
And
jump
now I
right
make
in.
45-minute long
Okay,
videos.
so the first thing is what pet play is not.
Okay,
This tends to
okay.
be something that people get really confused about when they're first researching pet play because
It's
there
true.
are so many other things that are kind of like it that people outside of the communities get it confused with. It's not being a therian, it's not being a furry, it's not having a fursona, it's not um, being an Inumimi or a Nikomimi. It's not.
Okay, I'm gonna have to turn on subtitles for this just in case. Just in case. Oh, Nico Muli. That's what I thought it said. So no, it's not Nico Muli. It's Nico Mimi or Inumimi, which let's do a little Google search here. Let's do some education. So Inumimi is like basically an anime. It's a dog girl, right? And it's just an aesthetic. It's just a style. It's not a BDSM thing. I like how I just threw all those words out there and didn't explain any of them. I was just like, yeah, it's not being a furry. What is being a furry? Who knows? What is a fursona? Well, it's not this. Such a different time of content creation. Anyways, moving away from the anime dog girls.
Not cosplay. All these things are very distinct. You can see like some overlap between certain parts of these categories, but it's not super common. For one thing, being a Therian tends to be a more spiritual thing. Therians tend to have a spiritual connection with their animal, and on the inside, they really believe that they are that animal and that they are just stuck in a human body. Whereas with pet players, for the most part, they tend to understand that they are a human acting as an animal. They don't literally believe that they are the animals that they're playing as. They can have a really, really strong.
So, I literally think I say this almost the same way today, which is they don't believe they're literally that animal, which is so funny because I still have to keep saying it because places like Truly, they still make documentaries that have titles like My Girlfriend Identifies as a Cat. There was literally a new one of them that we watched on Patreon yesterday that had that exact title. And by the way, the person in the video was asexual. So, hey, you know what? A little bit of representation there. But that still very much holds true. I am not an expert on Therians or other kin. So, if you are and you also do pet play, like, hey, hit us up down below. Let us know what you think about the separation there. But I know on Tumblr, at least, because this was very informed by like Tumblr and Instagram discourse, that people would be like, what is the difference? And so you got to make those delineations, right?
Connection to the animal. They could be really drawn to the animal, but at the end of the day, they don't tend to literally believe that they're the animal on the inside. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with thinking that way.
Take
it's just
note,
something
documentary
that is more common
makers.
with Therians than it is with pet play itself on its own. And with furries, you get sort of this anthropomorphic transformation where something.
I like how it could tell I said anthropomorphic because I could barely tell that I said that. I forget that I used to say a lot in videos. I used to get comments about that a lot, actually. People would be like, you need to get speech training. You say too much, blah, blah, blah. I was filming this on a laptop. I was editing this with Microsoft, what was it called? I think it was like Movie Maker. They don't even support that software anymore. Like, I could barely cut a video. Like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't cut out ums. It just wouldn't work. It was not a feature that I had knowledge of. So things change. I will say that is one thing that I am proud of that I think I have made strides in over time is I don't use as a crutch word anymore. I still mispronounce things. I still have trouble understanding what I'm saying as I'm saying it, but the is a problem that has gone away. So we love the growth. Good job, us.
Is like part human and part furry, and there's this whole separate community that's dedicated to being a furry that is completely distinct from the pet play community, because when you're a pet player, there's a separation between I am a human and I am an animal, and you don't fuse two together. Normally, you can have somebody who's a human pet who is both things at the same time, but most people tend to separate it between being a human and being an animal. And it's not being a cosplayer, it's not Nikomimi or Inumimi. So sometimes very similar items, and shops will sell to both pet players and to cosplayers because there are a lot of animes and manga that are dedicated to this idea of a very moe cat girl or dog girl or
And now we have like VTubers where, and I think I saw one earlier, right? I can't remember what her name is.
I'm a duck.
But like we have VTubers now where their whole icon is being a wolf girl or a cat girl or a dog girl. And I wonder if that's led anyone to Petplay? Like at least aesthetically maybe? I wonder if there's overlap there because that was not a thing at the time I made this video in 2016.
whatever. But those things are just costumes that you take off at the end of the day. It's not a part of who you are. It's not a big aspect of your life, and it doesn't involve BDSM. And
I think I did a
Petplay's
cut
main
there.
feature is the fact that it's part of BDSM and it's part
What?
of the BDSM community. So definitely,
Whoa,
pet play
what
is
was that
somebody
cut
taking
I
on
just
the
did?
personality and behavior of an animal or animals. And implicit in this is a DS dynamic or a dominance and submission dynamic. The pet is generally the submissive.
Okay, this is one thing I have changed my opinion on over time. So I definitely used to think about pet play as a DS thing because that's how a lot of people talk about it, right? If you're online and you're researching this and you are trying to figure out more about pet play, most people will describe it as a type of DS relationship. However, I think when you look at how the pet play world operates, you have moshes, you have gatherings of people that are just doing pet play in groups, having fun, chasing balls, doing trick training, eating food off the floor, things that don't necessarily have to involve any kind of DS at all. So I have changed it from defining it as being a subset of DS to something that largely overlaps with it, but it can also just be a form of animal role play where you take on the personality, the persona of a pet. So it's not just about DS, but I think at the time, especially, most people were talking about it like it was. So a little bit of a misconception there. So I'm glad I could correct that.
Although occasionally the dominant, most usually in cases where there are two pets in the relationship together. The dominant can be referred to as an owner or master or trainer or handler. The specific title is going to vary depending on the relationship. So don't get too hung up on what you should call a dominant. If
Still true,
you are
still
a pet,
true.
they will tell you. The defining feature of pet play is this BDSM relationship. You cannot have pet play if you don't have BDSM. So that means if you
Still true. Still true. Just the aesthetics of it are not what make it pet play. And I think what I was maybe referring to in this is lots of debate about people like trying to make safe for work non BDSM pet play a thing. And still have opinions about that. But maybe I'll share mine. I don't know. Let's see.
you're underage, don't do BDSM.
Still
don't
true.
do pet play. Don't
Still
tell
true.
people you're doing pet play. In the meantime, you can do research and keep watching this video if you want, but just I don't want to talk about it any more than that. Okay, so what do pets actually weigh?
I will talk about it a little bit more than that, just because there may be minors watching this right now who are like, why can't I do pet play? So the reason why, especially if you are trying to do pet play online or in public, well, I guess mostly online and public, right? Social media accounts, TikTok, Twitter, what have you. I think the biggest concern that I have is when you put on your profile that you're 14, pet player, looking for a master. That is a huge, giant magnet for predators and abusers. And I do not want to in any way encourage that or enable that. It is really dangerous when you're really young and your brain is still developing. You don't necessarily fully comprehend how intense even something as like silly and fun and lighthearted as pet play can be. It still affects your brain and it can be just more intense than you're realizing it will be. And I just don't encourage people to play around with that when they're younger and they don't fully understand those long term repercussions. And especially if you're online and looking for people and just saying, hey, I want a master, that's really, really dangerous. So I have videos elsewhere where I've talked about in detail, like why you shouldn't do BDSM as a minor. So check those out. But yeah, just for a little bit more of an explanation for this video.
Probably the most common things are collars. These come in all shapes and types and sizes. There's leather collars, there's ribbon collars, there's metal collars, there's ones that tie with ribbon, there's ones that are permanent locking collars. And really, any pet can wear a collar of any kind that they want. It can just be a sign that they're submissive. It can be a sign of their relationship status, of the fact that they're owned or protected. Anyone can wear a collar. If you are a stray, don't let anybody tell you that you can't wear a collar, because that's just not true, because in the larger BDSM community, it's actually pretty important that submissives wear collars even when not owned to BDSM events, because it symbolizes their status and helps other people figure out what they are without having to actually ask. What sort of other things?
So I wouldn't necessarily say it's important that you wear one. I wouldn't stand by that phrasing, but I will say, listen, I don't have a new dom, okay? I'm not owned. I wear this because it makes me feel submissive internally, and my submissive identity is part of who I am, regardless of if I am currently with a dominant or a master or a what have you. And I do wear this to parties because the way that I dress to parties, like I wear full out goth PVC latex fishnets, giant fucking boots. Like, a lot of people confuse that for being dominant, especially when you are someone who dresses more alternative, and wearing a collar kind of helps people be like, okay, she may be submissive, more so than being like, oh, mistress, I have long wanted to serve a small titty goth GF. Please allow me to lick your boots. Like, that's not what I want. So I try to signal appropriately based on that. But yeah, I'm not currently in a relationship right now that involves DS. And so I still wear a collar, and I still think that is totally valid if you want to, if it helps you in some way or helps you signal your preferred role appropriately or whatever else. And just have fun with it, okay? Don't worry too much. That's my advice.
Do pets wear? Ears and tails are really common. These are usually made out of faux fur. And they can be really big or small or super realistic or super cartoony. It's really just all up to personal preference. And you also don't have to wear gear to be a pet at all. You can own absolutely nothing that have a collar or ears or tail or a single toy at all, and you're still a pet, because what matters about being a pet is not the gear that you wear, but what you feel on the inside. So why would anyone actually want to be a pet? I see so many things on the internet about people saying that it's...
I think this is so funny because I still do this. I reordered how I've done things. I usually put the motivation at the beginning of the video, but I still think that's really important to talk about. So it's funny to see, like, even almost 5.5 years ago, I was still thinking of the same things when making videos, and it's still true. So what are people saying on the internet? What could they possibly be saying?
Demeaning and degrading, and people shouldn't treat humans this way. But the thing you have to remember is that pet play always involves consent and always involves a willingness of both parties. So the idea that it's degrading doesn't make sense, because of the fact that the person who is being degraded has asked for it. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter if you think it's degrading or not, if it's not actually degrading to the people that are in it. A lot of people really like being a pet. They find it super relaxing, and it's a really good way to unwind if you are somebody with anxiety or just generally have a lot of stress in your life, to get away from human worries and go into a similar state of mind for a few hours. This is something that is specific to pet play that doesn't exist in any of the other things I talked about at the very beginning of the video. Pet players experience something called pet space, not all.
Okay, pause for a second, because I was not expecting a full diversion into pet play is not degrading, and I can't remember why I talked about this, but I know that somewhere there was a discourse that involved, like, pet play is really gross, probably Tumblr, being like, pet play is gross, and people acting like animals are gross, and it's just degrading, and it's anti-feminist. I think it was probably that, where it's like, BDSM is degrading to women and it's bad for women, like that kind of thing. Still very much a thing that is ongoing. I don't think we're ever gonna fully get rid of that conversation no matter what we say, but it's funny because I think you can use the word degrading in a kink context and mean it as like a positive thing that's just a type of play, right? Like humiliation, degradation, those are consensual kinks you can engage in. And for a lot of people, especially with things like forced pony play, for example, the humiliation and the degradation aspect of it is part of the kink, and that's a positive, and that's why people enjoy doing it. And it's not always about like this internal sense of feeling like a pet. It can also be about being forced to do it and being made to act like an animal, as opposed to like internally feeling like a pet is a reflection of the way that you engage with your submissive self. Very big, fluffy language, but that's what I mean. Anyways, let's talk about pet space.
Always, but at least some of the time when they're behaving as a pet, and it's a form of subspace, which is a specific mental state that can be experienced under different conditions and stimulations. And with pet players specifically, this tends to be a shutting down sort of your mind, and you just stop feeling all of that buzz in your head that's like telling you like, I need to remember to do the laundry, and I gotta make dinner and do the dishes, and oh my god, what about my homework, and I need to get my work schedule, and all of that just shuts down. And the deeper you go into pet space, the more you tend to adopt the motivations and thought patterns of whatever animal that you're doing, and that can be really helpful for people in the same way that doing meditation is really helpful for people. But on a simpler note, it can also just be a really nice feeling of comfort to have somebody take care of you as a pet and feed you and walk you.
So I feel like that's a fairly good definition of pet space. I have a whole video that I did a couple years ago now where I talked about like everything about subspace, and I would watch that one. But yeah, basically the way that I define pet space is not just merely being in the pet role, which is how some people kind of see it. I see it as the same thing as subspace, but basically subspace that happens while you're doing pet play, where you're really deeply engaging in that pet role. Like I said, where that background noise starts to fade away. So, not wrong, but could have done with a little more detail, I think, on reflection.
While you're with them. And on the flip side of that, you also have the style of pet play that is more focused on humiliation and punishment, which is more common with older pet players who are parts of other segments of the BDSM community than it is with the newer and younger ones who are discovering BDSM through pet play. Okay, so how do you actually do pet play?
The cuts in this are like amazing.
Kira talked about earlier, ears, tails, or collars. They can also wear harnesses. Really, anything that makes them feel closer to being a pet and enhances the mental state of being a pet. These things can also be used as a mental cue, so you know when to be in and out of pet space, and so you know when it's appropriate to be behaving as a pet. So for instance, you could have it so you only wear your ears when you're in pet space, and putting them on instantly just helps you become more of a pet, and when you take them off, you go back to your human mind much more easily. There are also people, myself included, who don't do that and just kind of wear their gear whenever they want to because they...
I have definitely changed how I personally do this. I am wearing them for the video now because I'm like recreating the whole look, but I pretty much only wear pet gear now when I'm doing a pet play scene. One is because of what I mentioned about like the headspace part of it, where wanting to have that stronger association where putting on the clothing, putting on the accessories is associated with doing pet play stuff, so the link between them is stronger, but also because like I haven't bought new pet play stuff in years. These ears are at least 3 years old, and I don't know if I can find a lot of this stuff again, and so I'm trying to preserve it and not wear it down too hard, basically, because I don't know if I would ever be able to get more pet play stuff again, because making gear for pet play, making ears like they used to, just isn't as much of a thing, I think, anymore. Like it's different now. Like the style and the fashion is different. So yeah. I do think that is still a good advice, though. I still stand by that. Like, you can wear it casually every day if you want to, and you can also just only wear it for scenes, especially if you find you are struggling with accessing that pet headspace when you want to.
Don't use it as that mental cue, and that's fine. Pets also come in a wide variety of species and
That is
colors
true.
and types. You have people who are ponies and puppies. Those are the two sort of original ones that are the oldest. There's also kittens are super common. Right now, they're probably the most common kind of pet, although you also see foxes and bunnies and dragons and fish and ferrets and really any kind of animal you could think of, you can be as a pet. And you can be more than one pet, so you can be like a hybrid and be like a puppy cat or a bunny fox and put the two together and be both pets kind of at the same time. And you can also have it to where you identify as two pets or three pets and you alternate between these, maybe depending on what sort of mood you're in or what gear you're wearing.
Yep.
There are also a really wide variety of actions you can do as a pet as part of a pet play scene or to help you go into.
I love how I waited until the last 2 minutes of this video to be like, what do you do as a pet player? I feel like I would have answered that like second today, because I feel like that's the important part, is like, how do you do the thing? What does this consist of? Not being a Therian, and it's not cosplay, and you can wear collars if you want to, and pet space is a thing, right? Okay, so I just think that's funny. All right, what can you do in a pet play scene? Let's find out.
Do pet space. Some really common ones are eating out of a pet bowl, eating off of the ground, or eating table scraps, using a leash and going on walks, being leash trained, learning tricks, playing with toys, just having your vocalizations restricted, having your movement of your hands restricted. So like having wearing mitts that sort of cover all your fingers, so it's like a paw. Restricting furniture use. Really, there's a whole wide variety of things you can do as a pet. It's just sort of limited by your imagination and what you feel like doing. And sometimes pets feel like doing things that aren't necessarily associated in real life with that animal. So sometimes bunnies want to be leash trained, although actually I have seen real bunnies on leashes before, so that is possible. Basically, don't necessarily limit yourself to what your pet stereotypically in the real world would do. There are all sorts of different things you can do as a pet, and there's also the reasons you can be a pet. I am going to talk about in my next video how you actually figure out what pet you are, because that can be really confusing. Some people identify really strongly with a pet right away, and some people don't. And I want to be able to help you guys out with this. If you're curious about pet play and want to learn more, I will put a link to that video when it's up down in the description, as well as any other sources that I used today. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I should cut this video off now because it's already really long, and I will see you later this week. Bye. YouTube.
It's really long. It's 11 minutes. Y'all wish I made 11-minute videos. I think the shortest video I did recently was 14 minutes. This one's going to be probably almost half an hour. You know, commentary and all that getting edited. So, what are my overall thoughts here? I really think I didn't disagree with much of what I said. I think I just would focus on different things, because I think this video is very geared towards the Instagram, Tumblr pet play world of 2016. Like, it's not really that general. I think if I was doing this now, I would do the usual way that I do things, right? Which is like, what is pet play? Why do people enjoy it? How do you do it? What types of pets are there? And safety information, that kind of thing. As opposed to like, let's talk about pet space. Let's talk about wearing collars. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, this was just a hobby. I didn't know if I was going to make 2 more videos, let alone hundreds, right? So I can kind of see why I did stuff. But overall, I don't think the information was wrong. It was just like less detailed than I think I would do it now with all of the additional experience and information and research that I've done since then. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend this today, but if you got started from Petplay watching this, I don't think you would have necessarily gone on the wrong path by any means. So yeah, I would love to know what you all think about this down below. I try to be kind to myself in these videos. I know some people watch their old content and just hate it and cringe, and I definitely cringe at it, but I try to remember, like, I was really new to filming videos. I was kind of new to doing BDSM. I had no expectations that more than 10 people would see a video, so this is what you get as a result. And as you guys saw before, I do have so many other videos that are my old content that I have desperate need to revisit. And we could do the follow-up video I did, which is like, how do you know what kind of pet you are? Or like my video on the very basics. It's interesting to see, looking back on all of this, like what got views over time and what didn't, because originally, these review videos were really popular and no one was watching the informational stuff, and now it's like totally flipped over time. So anyways, I really enjoyed this, you guys. Again, I would love to know what you all think down below. If you guys want me to do more videos like this one, if you have other videos you want me to react to that I have done on here, let me know everything down in a comment below. If you enjoyed this, if you have not already, confused how you found this one, but thank you for being here. And if you have not, please do subscribe. I make videos twice a week about all sorts of kink and BDSM related topics. And finally, if you want to support my channel, the best way you can do that is with Patreon. That is what makes videos like this possible. And also, if you guys want to watch me do more reaction videos and see my behind the scenes process, that all happens over on Patreon. I do other extra special live streams on there where I do go over other videos that have come out, and I do research and I write scripts and all that. So if that is an interest to you, again, please check out my Patreon. If you do already support me over there, thank you so much. It means the absolute world to me, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day and an amazing rest of your week. Bye!